Hi, and welcome back to Show Me UX. I'm Bill, a user experience designer, and in this video, I'm going to cover the basics of how to use auto layout in Figma. Let's get started. Auto layout is a property that can be added to frames, with or without child layers, groups, as well as layer selections. Regardless of the elements you choose to apply auto layout to, they will be placed in a frame. Applying auto layout is a non-destructive action, so if you later choose to remove auto layout, nothing will be lost. Bear in mind that when you apply auto layout to elements, you will lose the ability to apply layout grids, constraints, or use smart selection, as those options conflict with those of auto layout, so consider the needs of your design prior to using auto layout. With auto layout applied, we can specify the flow, spacing, padding, alignment, and distribution of child elements within the frame. I'll give you an example by creating a button with an icon and some text. The first layer I'll add is the text layer. I'll select the Type tool by pressing T on my keyboard and clicking once in the canvas. Since I see the blinking cursor, I know that I can begin typing, and I want the copy on this button to say C menu. This button, for example, could be used on a dining application or in a restaurant. Since I'm done with this copy, I'll press the Escape key, and now I need to add the icon. I have an appropriate icon already on the clipboard, so I'm going to paste that into the canvas now by holding down Command and pressing V. This icon is a little bit small, so I'm going to increase its size by changing the width and the height here in the design panel on the right. Because I want both the width and the height to stay at the same proportion to each other, as we see here it's 1:1, I can click on this option, Constrain Proportions, so that when I make a change to either width or height, the other one will respond appropriately. I'm going to change the width to 32, and when I press Enter, we can see that height has also changed to 32. This looks appropriate for now. To apply auto layout to these layers, I'll first need to select them, and I can do that either by selecting them in the Layers panel on the left, or by clicking and dragging to select them in the canvas. With these layers selected, I can apply auto layout by clicking the auto layout section here on the right in the design panel, or by right-clicking on the selection in the canvas and selecting Add Auto Layout. As we can see, I can also use the keyboard shortcut Shift and A to apply an auto layout. With auto layout applied, we now can see all the options we have available to us in the design panel in the auto layout section. We'll also see that the layers that we selected are now child elements of a new layer called Frame 1. Now, let's consider some of the options we have available to us in the right sidebar in the auto layout section. The first two options are the direction options, and it allows us to order the child layers either vertically or horizontally. If I switch to vertical, we'll see that the menu icon is now on top of our type layer. Underneath that is the spacing between items input, and that allows us to, of course, alter the space between the items. As we can see here, we have a spacing of 32 pixels. However, if I click and scrub in a new value, we can see that the space between these two layers increases and decreases. Below that is the horizontal padding, and when I scrub this, if we look at the bounding box of the frame in the canvas, we can see that padding is added to both the left and the right. If we want to add padding to just one side, we can click in the input field, type in a comma, and add a different number. This will give us padding on the right as well as the left. The right number will be the number on the right, and left padding is the number on the left. That is the same case for the next option, vertical padding. We can scrub in a new number, and as we see in the canvas, padding is added to the top and the bottom. And if we wanted to change the padding on just the bottom, for instance, we can put a comma after the first number and type in a new number. And as we can see, there is now a difference in the padding on the top and on the bottom. Another way we can change the vertical and horizontal padding, as well as the space between items, is to mouse over the frame in the canvas that has auto layout applied to it. And when we do, we'll see these pink striped areas with pink handles. If we click and drag on these pink handles, we can change the padding as well as the space between items that way. Another way of changing the padding would be to come to the Auto Layout section, click the Independent Paddings button, and here we have access to the left, top, right, and bottom padding. Now, let's take a closer look at the interactive alignment grid in the Auto Layout section below. This section allows us to specify the alignment of the child layers inside the parent frame. Because we cannot specify the alignment of the children individually, we must give the parent frame an alignment. The default is center alignment, and depending on how many child layers you have, as well as the direction you have set up for your auto layout, certain options will or will not be available to you. In this example, only the left alignment and right alignment will make any difference. And as we can see, as I select the left and right alignments, the menu icon moves to the right and to the left, and again, back to the center. Now that we understand alignment, spacing, and padding with auto layout, let's continue making this button. The first step would be changing the direction to horizontal. And now we'll see that the bounding box doesn't exactly fit with the layers that we have inside. This is because we have the horizontal resizing set to fixed. So let's go ahead and change that to hug contents. And we'll do the same for the vertical sizing as well. Now we can see that the size of the frame is dictated by the padding and the spacing between that we have set up here in the right sidebar in the auto layout section. Let's go ahead and make these numbers a bit more realistic, starting with the spacing between items. Let's choose something smaller. Let's start with 24. And as far as the padding is concerned, let's try 24 again for both the left and the right padding, and 12 for the padding on the top and the bottom. That's a lot closer to what we would normally see with a button of this type. To make things a bit easier to see, I'm going to add a fill to this frame by clicking the Fill section in the right sidebar. By default, the color is pure white, but if we wanted to change that, of course, we could enter a new hex value or click the swatch to bring up the color picker. I also want to add a bit of a corner radius, so I will click here in this input and type in 8. This gets us a lot closer to what we're looking for as far as a button is concerned. This is looking pretty close to the button that we want to end up with. However, looking at the canvas, I can see that the text and the menu aren't exactly centered to each other like they ought to be. To change this, I'll come over to the Auto Layout section and change the alignment to center alignment. And though it may be difficult to see, the C menu type layer moved down 1 or 2 pixels, which makes this look a lot more centered. Lastly, if we wanted to add a bit of realism, that is to say, if we wanted to add an effect that may be present in many of the buttons you see or that are dictated by your design system, we can click the Effects section here in the right sidebar, which will automatically add a drop shadow to the button. And there we have it, a button made in Figma using auto layout. I hope you enjoyed this video on using auto layouts in Figma. If you did enjoy this content, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more user experience design videos. Thanks for watching.